I am Nina van Tilburg for National Security News. Well, Western allies, along with several Arab nations, are trying to avert a wider war between Israel and Hezbollah and have called for a 3-week ceasefire. But it has already been rejected by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom has urged its citizens to leave Lebanon and is initiating emergency evacuation measures. Well, to shed light on what such an evacuation would entail and what Western allies' reactions are likely to be, we are joined in the NSN studio by former British Army intelligence officer and NATO planner, Col Phil Ingram. So, Phil, thank you for joining us. So what is your perspective on the developments?
Yeah, it's interesting. We see lots of things coming out of the United Nations. The call for a ceasefire, whenever you start a military operation of the sort of scale that the Israelis seem to have started into southern Lebanon and certainly against Hezbollah, it's very difficult to stop it. It's like a super tanker, but it's a super tanker that's bigger than any super tanker you had beforehand. And if you stop it, or pause it, restarting it tends to be much more costly in lives for your people and for the ones that you're having to have an influence on. And unless there's some hope at the end of 21 days, then it's pointless. There needs to be something on the table that says, well, you're in these 21 days, we're going to achieve this, these are the dates, this is what's going on. And therefore, I think what we're seeing is a bit of soundbite politics coming out of some major nations. And we have to remember that France is in a very difficult position politically with President Macron. The UK has just got a new government who have got their backbench MPs. They're trying to keep them under control, and they haven't had a chance to really work out where they are. So you're seeing a change of messaging there. And in the United States, you've got the US presidential election coming up with a very close run race between the two candidates, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. So they won't want to do anything domestically that will cause issues. And the statement is toothless. There's already a United Nations Security Council resolution. That's Security Council Resolution 1701 that was brought in after the Israeli-Lebanon war in 2006 that called for the demilitarization of about 28 kilometers depth in southern Lebanon. It called for the disbandment of Hezbollah and other armed groups in the area, and the only military that are allowed in the area are in UNIFIL, the United Nations troops that are in there patrolling it. Well, that hasn't lasted very, very, very well indeed. And that's a Security Council resolution which has got teeth. This statement that's come out hasn't got any teeth.
Well, so what do you think is going to happen? Is Israel poised to invade Hezbollah territory, no matter what the allies say?
Well, I think Israel's just going to go ahead and do what Israel says it needs to do. I think they believe that they've got to the end of the military operation against Hamas in Gaza. And we have to remember that since the 8th of October last year, Hezbollah have been rocketing Israel from the north on a daily basis. They've displaced 60,000 Israeli civilians out of towns and villages along the edge of the border. They have killed tens of Israelis, including children. You're rocketing football matches and other bits and pieces. And Hezbollah themselves, they're in an interesting position. They have got some members from their political wing in the government in Lebanon, but they've got a military force that has nothing to do with the Lebanese military. And it's their military force that is attacking Israel and provoking Israel. And of course, Hezbollah are also one of the largest organized criminal organizations in the Middle East. And they control all of the drug trafficking, and there's a lot of it. All of the money laundering, there's even more of that. And all of the prostitution rings that happen that occur through the Middle East countries, including child prostitution. So they're not a nice bunch of people.
Well, the UK government has advised nationals to leave Lebanon immediately and said it's preparing for an emergency evacuation if necessary. So what kind of challenges and processes are involved in evacuating 10,000 British citizens from Lebanon?
Serious challenges with it. But it's something that is well rehearsed and well planned. So for every country around the world, our Foreign and Commonwealth Office is constantly working with our intelligence services, looking at the threat that's there, and this is the potential for a threat to British citizens in that country. The plans come off the shelf, and the first bit of the plan is, as we've seen already, it's clear statements under the government saying, folks, if you're British passport holders and you're in country, we advise you to leave immediately, by any means possible. And that always happens whilst there's still commercial air and sea routes out of the country, because they want to minimise the footprint of the number of individuals that are there. As that goes out, what the embassy will start to do is start to gather as much information as possible about the British passport holders that there are in country. They don't, when people go into the country, they don't have to go and register with the embassy. So there'll be people trying to, they'll set up a website, and they have, for people to register their address so that they can start to plot where everyone is and track and see whether they've managed to leave the country. So there'll be a requirement for an assisted evacuation. And if there is no requirement for an assisted evacuation, provided there's no shooting or anything else, it's getting military or charter aircrafts on the ground to take British nationals, assuming they can still get to airports and bits and pieces, or seaports, and then take them out that way. It becomes extreme if you then have to send military groups in to try and get individuals out. And that will not happen for everyone. We just don't have the capacity to do that. And it would be far too dangerous. The advice that would then go into people who have left themselves in a position where things have got very dangerous indeed would be to hunker down and wait for it all to calm down, because there's no automatic right to rescue, but there's a real danger that if you did send armed troops into rescue, there'd be a lot more people who get killed.
But I think some of the troops are already in Cyprus.
A non-combatant operation, evacuation operation like this, you pre-deploy all of the capabilities that you need just in case. So there's ships in Cyprus, we've got aircraft in Cyprus, the troops have gone into Cyprus, because if you're going to put a ship into a Lebanese port, you need to make sure that the berth that it goes into is secure. You want to make sure that, as the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, people go in to check the passports so that you're only taking out the right people that match the database, that they're protected. And that's what the troops will be there to do. And as I said, in extreme circumstances, the troops will be there to potentially go and lift some key people if they need to, if they find themselves trapped in different places. But that's the exception rather than the rule.
So would that only happen if Israel actually invades the territory of Lebanon?
Look, after this, there's an assessment that whatever is going on from a military perspective has got the potential to destabilize the country to a point where it is making it far too dangerous for UK nationals to remain in country. And clearly that assessment, the initial stage of that assessment, has been made already. And that's why the Foreign Secretary and other politicians have said, get out now. And this is being repeated by other countries across Europe and across the world, telling their nationals to get out of Lebanon. That's what they hope they will do. But not everyone has that level of common sense to get out whenever they can. And some people are stuck in positions where actually it's very difficult for them to do that. They can't really. The situation is very dynamic. A go on a non-combatant evacuation operation is not something that the UK would do in isolation. All of the international partners will be sitting discussing how they can help each other. And we have to remember there's lots of countries around the world that don't have the ability to put naval ships into Lebanon, or put military aircraft in, or charter civilian aircraft to get in to get their nationals out. So there's a lot of bilateral and multilateral agreements that are going on. You look at Ireland, for example. Ireland have got United Nations peacekeeping troops in the buffer zone, right in the area that is being attacked. But Ireland doesn't have a strategic lift capability by sea or by air. So they will rely on their international partners, and in this case, probably the United Kingdom or France, or the Americans, to get Irish citizens and Irish troops out. And you've got the same with all different countries. And this is where the embassy staff from all different countries will be working very hard together, and they'll build an awful lot of cooperation. It's complex, but it is planned and it is rehearsed. Those countries that go and do this for real do rehearse it.
Well, Netanyahu was originally supposed to speak earlier this week at the United Nations, but it's apparently now happening on Friday, although there are rumors that there's a 50% chance that he would not be speaking. But does it seem that whatever anybody says, Netanyahu will go ahead and do whatever he wants?
Netanyahu will go ahead and do whatever Netanyahu wants. And this is where you get another layer of complexity coming in. I think what we're seeing in a lot of the politics being fed in the United Nations with the statements is aimed at domestic audiences in different countries that are there. But Netanyahu is aiming his political stance and his military stance from a domestic perspective as well, not just the domestic protection of Israel, which is what he will countenance it as all of the time. But we have to remember that his coalition is only held together by extreme right elements within it. And if his coalition falls apart and his government falls apart, Netanyahu still has the spectre of criminal charges hanging over him from the past. And therefore, it's almost in his personal priority to keep conflict going as long as possible. And that's horrible to think. And there's a possibility that what the international community has seen is that his motivation behind a lot of this is to do just that. He could finish things an awful lot more quickly. But Netanyahu historically has only ever done what he wants to do. It's unusual. The United States are saying things against him at the moment, but we'll only know where the United States properly stand on this if it goes to a Security Council resolution. But that would be hypocritical because there's already an extant Security Council resolution covering issues in that southern part of Lebanon, and that hasn't been enforced at all.
Col Phil Ingram, thanks so much.